Hi, Robert and Lisa. Thanks for coming in today. I appreciate your time. When we met last week, you had mentioned with me that you'd like to retire in the next few months, and had asked me to run some analysis for you regarding that. I've done that as well as other aspects of your whole financial life, and really hopefully to give you a clear picture of what all of your finances look like. Now, to start off, I think we're going to first cover that retirement analysis piece. You'd said to me that you'd like to retire on $15,000 a month going forward. You wanted to plan for 20 years for you, Robert, and 30 years for you, Lisa. You did not want there to be any drop off in income when one of you passes away, so I factored that in. To look at that, if you're looking at $15,000 a month over the next 30 years, the net present value of that, assuming inflation of 3% and a conservative return of 5%, that your net present value of all that cash flow, if you're going to be spending principal as well as interest with, based on your assets, that's the most realistic approach. Just spending interest based on that number that you had given out is really not a realistic number based on your assets. So I ran it based on spending interest as well as principal. That number is $4,097,089. So that is how much you will need in order to retire, in the next few months, and then have that last for 30 years. In order to do that, I looked at your current assets, and then you have a couple events coming up. One, Robert, you have your pension and the options that you have with that, so I'm going to run through that and the option I think you should go with. Lisa, you have the sale of your business. We're going to go through that and what the present cash flow as well as the tax implications of that will be. As well as the proceeds you'd get from selling both of your homes, as well as if you did decide to gift your home to your son, your vacation home to your son, Robert. So when it comes to your pension, the first option is that you have get 20 years, and it would be about 37% of your current salary based on the amount of time that you have been there. That would be about $75,000 a year, and this actually has the highest net present value. The reason I don't think this would make sense for you is you did, state that you really would like to have, Lisa not have any drop off in income. Because of that, this probably is not going to make the most sense for you, but it does actually have the highest net present value. The second option is you get a reduced payment, Robert, of about 80% of what you were going to get. And then after you pass away, Lisa gets 50% of that. This option also I don't think makes sense for you based on the fact that it actually has the lowest net present value of the three options. The third option is to take a lump sum. You would be able to move that into an IRA tax-free. You could invest that the way you have some of your other assets invested. That I think makes the most option. It leaves the flexibility and also makes sure that Lisa's covered if you were to pass away. It does go for, say, 20 years, but if you were to pass away next year, that would leave Lisa with no income if you were to go with that first option, which is why I think this third option makes the sense. Another option, another component that will help fund your retirement is your sale of your business, Lisa. You were presented with an offer. It is congratulations on having such a successful business there, and they were offered $900,000. It is an installment sale, and I'm going to review kind of the tax implications on that and how that would work. You were offered $100,000 and then monthly payments for the next 10 years at 9% interest. So typically when you sell a business or any investment, you're taxed in that whole year. Installment sales are a different component there, though, in the fact that it's one circumstance where you spread that over years that you actually receive the proceeds from that. Because your tax basis was only $225,000, you're selling it for $900,000. Your gross profit percentage is 75%. That means all proceeds, you're going to pay taxes on 75% of each of those. So not the entire amount that you're going to be getting paid will be taxable, but a portion of that, or 75% of that, will be taxable. If you were to look at, because of the high interest rate of 9%, if you were to take the net present value of all those cash flows that you'll be getting, it's actually $1,020,065. So it's actually higher than the $900,000 if you were to look at that. And we're going to factor that into your overall plan. Another component that can help fund your retirement is the sale of your primary home. It is worth about $900,000 now. You have a $450,000 mortgage on that. And if you were to sell that after Let me just take a quick look at here. After the real estate commission, you take home about $846,000. The basis on that, there would be a gain of about $426,000. Internal Revenue Code Section 121, Lisa, you used this a few years ago when you sold your home, allows someone to take $250,000 and exclude that from any capital gains. For a couple, it is $500,000. Lisa, because you've only lived with Robert for 18 months, you would not be able to take part in that. If you were to sell the house, say after June, you would have then lived there for 2 years, and the entire gain would be able to be tax-free. If you were to do that, the proceeds from selling the house would be about $396,000. All of that would not be, you'd be able to keep all of that if you sell it after this year. If you were to sell it, say, next month, the taxable gain would be about $176,000, excluding Robert's portion where he can use the $250,000, and you'd take home about $369,000. So you're looking at about $30,000, worth of taxes that you would, pay on that. It's really $26,400. Another option that you'd said was to sell your vacation home as well to fund that, and you're planning on, potentially renting for a few years. Unfortunately, the vacation home is worth less than what you initially purchased it for. You bought it for about $642,000. Right now, it's selling for about $540,000. If you were to sell it, you would take home about $147,600. Because it is actually less than what you bought it for, all of that wouldn't be taxable. You could use all of that money to help fund your retirement. Another option that you had talked about was potentially, gifting the house to your sons, and you certainly would be able to do that. The tax implications, and probably the best way to do that, would be to use the annual gift exclusion, which for a single person is $14,000. A couple can gift up to $28,000. You would want to gift a portion of that this year to your sons, and then you could give away the rest. If you gifted it to both of your sons as well as their spouses, you could gift up $56,000 to each of them, for that. The remaining portion that was not counted as an annual gift would be used against the annual, the lifetime exclusion amount. Would go against that for your estate when you were to pass away. So it would factor in, when it comes to estate taxes for that. So the next thing that brings me to is looking at what all your assets are and where you stand with that. If you're looking at Lisa's investment portfolio, Robert, your single premium deferred annuity, your Roth and traditional IRA, your defined benefit plan as well, the sale of everything, proceeds from the home, and the cash you have, that number is about $4,086,068. So it is slightly below what the initial amount was of $4,097,089. So could you retire? You could retire based on the amount you have, spending $14,984. So it's slightly less than the $15,000 that you had initially said. Something to be conscious of, though. So while you could do that, cutting $16 a month would be something that you can do. Before I recommend any client ever retire, I always want to go through all the options that are available to them and some of the risks associated with retirement. The 5 main risks are your withdrawal rate, inflation, longevity, medical costs, as well as your asset allocation. So the withdrawal rate. This plan could work if our market predictions are correct and you take exactly what we had said. If you take more than that, the assets are going to be depleted and there could potentially be a shortfall for you there. Another big risk for clients is inflation. So we had factored in about 3% inflation, and while that recently has been accurate and what it has been, there's been points in history when inflation has been in the double digits, and if that were the case, you'd really lose some of the purchasing power that you have for your accounts here. Another is longevity. So the way we factored this in is you spending both the principal as well as interest that you earned on this. So if you were to live past that 30 years that we had said, that we had factored this in for, there would be a shortfall and you would run out of assets. Unless if you don't want to ever have to be reliant on, your niece Lisa or your son's Robert, factoring that in and potentially working for a few more years would give you a little bit bigger cushion that you have there. Medical. I know you've got that great plan through work, Robert, and it is fantastic that you have, health insurance, but long-term care, and I address that later in the plan as well. Medical costs can really, a lot of clients underestimate it, and having a huge medical expense can lead to a shortfall in your retirement and really drain assets. And lastly is the asset allocation. So to be successful, you've got to make sure your assets are positioned the way that they should be. That you're not taking on too much risk. So if there's a downturn, all of a sudden, your assets are exposed and go down, or that you're not taking on enough risk and your assets aren't keeping up with inflation. So, based on your current assets, you probably could retire with slightly less than the $14,984. What I would like to just make you aware of the different risks associated with that and really think things through, and we can discuss that in more detail with that. So that's where things stand in regards to your retirement. Thanks.